Trial continued today for Blaze Taylor, the ex-Titan scout accused of spiking his pregnant girlfriend's drink with a lethal dose of cocaine. A lot of key witnesses took the stand, with Jade Benning's mother being the final one called up by the prosecution team. Our Sarah Allen followed today's hearing as the state rested its case.
It was my life. Everything I did was for her.
Bridget Burke says she's still grieving the loss of her daughter, Jade Benning, 3 years after she died from acute cocaine toxicity. Just a year after her death in March of 2023, her boyfriend and father of their unborn child, Blaze Taylor, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder after an investigation surrounding their deaths. On the 5th day of his trial, a majority of the day was the prosecution and defense questioning the lead detective, Adam Reese. The defense pushed on Benning's previous drug usage and evidence being tampered with, while the prosecution focused on Taylor's previous relationships. After Detective Reese, Apple Denny, one of 3 of Taylor's ex-girlfriends who he at one point impregnated, took the stand. Denny says he was supportive of her decision to get an abortion back in 2017.
Ultimately, it was your choice, right?
Yes.
And you made the choice, and Mr. Taylor was supportive of that choice, wasn't he?
Yes.
However, Denny testified that the second woman he got pregnant, Xavier Winford, pushed back on getting an abortion, and he panicked and tried to convince Denny to purchase abortion pills for him. Years later, Benning got pregnant, and she decided to keep the child, but her mother said Taylor was not supportive.
If she had the baby, he wanted nothing to do with the baby. He didn't want it to have his name. He didn't want the child to ever know who he was.
Others that took the stand included a toxicologist who went through the levels of cocaine found in Benning's system, and a coworker of Taylor's who says he had come to work acting completely normal while Benning spent a week on life support before her death. The defense argued everyone processes trauma differently.
We don't necessarily share trauma, deep personal issues with our coworkers.
And that was our Sarah Allen reporting. Court will resume at 9 o'clock on Monday morning.